For many centuries, outsiders have called the Inuit Eskimos. This term is no longer considered acceptable. The Inuit prefer the name by which they were given and have always known themselves as Inuit, which means the people in their native language Inuktitut. Inuit inhabit vast areas of Nunavut, the Northwest Territories, the coast of northern Labrador, and approximately 25% of northern Quebec. Traditionally, they have lived above the tree line in the area bordered by Alaska to the west, the Labrador coast to the east, the southern tip of Hudson Bay to the south, and the high Arctic islands to the north. About 55,700 Inuit live in 53 communities across northern Canada. The Inuit population has grown rapidly over the past few decades. Inuit origins in Canada date back at least 4,000 years. Their culture is deeply rooted in vast lands they inhabit. For thousands of years, Inuit closely observed the climate, landscape, seascapes, and ecological systems of their immense homeland. Through this intimate knowledge of the land and its life form, Inuit developed skills and technology uniquely adapted to one of the harshest and most demanding environments on Earth. One legend that the parents told their young children to stay away from the dangerous shores is the Kalaalleq legend, which is told by the Inuit parents and elders to prevent children from wandering to the shore where the Kalaalleqs live. Kalaalleq, human-like creature that lives in the sea with long hair and green skin, long fingernails. Kalaalleqs wear a mutso, and it can take babies and children who disobey their parents or wander off alone and takes the children in her amakati underwater and she adopts them as their own. Kalaalleqs have a distinctive humming sound, and the elders have said that they can hear the Kalaalleqs humming when they are near. Up to today, the Kalaalleq story is still being told in schools and by books, and of course by parents who don't want their children to wander off into the dangerous shore. Inuit treat human beings, the land, animals, and plants with equal respect. Today they continue to strive towards maintaining this harmonious relationship. They try to use the resources of the land and sea wisely in order to preserve them for future generations. Strict hunting traditions and rules help maintain the balance. Inuit in Labrador, for example, forbid the killing of any animal in its mating season. Traditional knowledge of Inuit history, along with the knowledge of the land, plants, and wildlife, has been passed down through generations. The family is the center of the Inuit culture, and cooperation and sharing are the basic principles in Inuit society. Inuits share the food that they have hunted, and everyone does his or her part to help those in need. The Inuits were able to hunt for food year-round, so depending on the season, they would hunt for different animals. Sea mammals were usually hunted during the winter when they were out on the ice. Examples of this were seals, walruses, beluga whales, and narwhals. What these animals were used for. Seals were used for their meat and skin. Walruses were used for ivory and the meat, but mostly for the dogs. Beluga whales, they used their skin and food like muktuk, which is outer skin and blubber. Narwhal was again used for their ivory and meat for dogs. Occasionally, they would hunt land animals that include caribou, musk oxen, Arctic fox, polar bear, Arctic hare, and Arctic birds. Inuit culture has been exposed to many outside influences over the past century. Nevertheless, Inuits have managed to preserve their values and their culture. Inuktitut is still the spoken language in all Inuit communities. It is the principal language used in the radio and on television productions, originating in the north, and it's implemented in the school curriculum. Many Inuit communities continue to practice traditional Inuit dance and song, including the drum dance and throat singing. Oral history and storytelling are still very much alive in Inuit culture, with tales passed down through the centuries. These stories are often about powerful spirits that inhabit the land and the sea. They have been a continuing source of inspiration for Inuit artists whose prints and sculptures are prized by collectors and art galleries all around the world. The Inuit people of Canada and Alaska are claiming they face extinction because of global warming. What they are doing to try and prevent this from happening is they invite inter-American commissions on human rights to visit the Arctic Circle to see the devastation being caused by global warming. We are already bearing the brunt of climate change. Without our snow and ice, our way of life goes. We lived in harmony with our surroundings for a millennia, but that is being taken away from us, one spokesperson from the Inuit says. The Inuits used to live life harmoniously, treating the land, the sea, living and non-living objects all with the same respect. But when their culture and way of life is being taken away from them, it is hard for them to follow the traditions of their own lifestyles. People worry about the polar bear becoming extinct by 2070 because there will be no ice for them which they can hunt seals, but the Inuits face extinction for the same reason, and at the same time, they are endangered species too. Inuit representative. Among the problems Inuit face is permafrost melting, which has destroyed the foundation of houses, eroded the seashores, and forced people to move inland. Airport runways, roads, and harbors are also collapsing. Because of global warming, these people are becoming extinct, which is terrible, from global warming which can and should be stopped. We are taking away their way of life and culture and currently not doing much about it. The Inuits were not as affected by the Europeans because of their location. It was so cold and the climate was so hard to get used to that when they settled in Canada, they were untouched. And when I say untouched, I mean untouched. The Inuits have never been subjected to the Indian Act and were largely ignored by government until 1939, when a court decision ruled that they were a federal responsibility. The Inuit negotiated the Nunavut territory with the federal government to define Inuit and Dene lands within the Northwest Territory. Some Inuits still follow a nomadic way of life, but others are involved in the administration and development of northern Canada, in business, local, territorial politics, teaching, transportation, medicine, broadcasting, and civil service. Many Inuit in northern communities face significant challenges such as living in some of the most crowded conditions in Canada. A 2006 survey found that the Northwest Territories, Nunavut, Quebec, and Labrador, more than 15,000 Inuit were in the overcrowded living conditions, and were most likely to have more than one family in one household. Although the Inuit population is young, the living conditions and lack of access to health care particularly contribute to an increased chronic health conditions, including obesity and diabetes. Despite these challenges, the traditions that tie the Inuit to their land remain strong today, and even with high unemployment, substandard housing, and low income, most Inuit do not move away from the communities in which they were raised. I think that we contribute to this because we demand the attention of the government and are selfish because we take up healthcare and apparently space. I don't know why space is such an issue. After all, we have the second largest country in the world, so space shouldn't be too much of an issue. The problem is, reservations are not large enough in comparison to the amount of the Inuit people. And I can guarantee that the Inuit group is not the only tribe with this problem. I think that a lot of people are bitter about the fact that all First Nations don't have to pay tax, housing costs, or for education. And in return, we pay them money. They don't need jobs and they get by easy. Well, this is the common misconception. In reality, yes, some of this may be true, but we took their land, treat them unfairly, with not much respect. We changed their laws, hence Idle No More campaign. We changed their land, we changed their culture, and as a result, we changed their lives. Now, it is not always for the better nor for the worse. However, I think what we can do to create a healthier relationships with the people is to treat the First Nations more like normal citizens, with issues about taxing, housing, etc. Make them pay appropriately to their income and stuff. However, create more land and freedom for them. I know when I say freedom, my last sentence becomes invalid, but what I mean is to give them more land space so they're not crowded, proper health care, and also decrease the rate of which global warming is happening. If we work together, we can all make change. The question is, when will the change happen?